Hello and welcome to the Beer of the Week Drink Along. I'm Matt.
And I'm Luke.
And we're here for another Beer of the Week in our classic subscription.
Yep.
And this is a beer from 8 Wired. Now, 8 Wired are one of our favourite breweries, and this is a remix on one of their classic beers.
Yeah, 8 Wired are wonderful. So really fantastic brewery, really talented crew working out there, and just good people all around, really, doing interesting stuff. It's the story of 8 Wired. Well, in fact, you could have a listen on the Beer Jerk podcast. I did a really good interview with Søren last year, so you can have a listen to the story of the start. But basically, he worked in an entirely different industry and just got into home brewing after his wife bought him a homebrew kit. And then he really enjoyed it. So he got a job as a brewer, and he brewed at, I think Renaissance was his first gig.
Yeah.
And he sort of really got into that and then just started brewing more of his own beers on the side, and he started contract brewing at Renaissance and then some other places, and he created the brand of 8 Wired, and it kind of went gangbusters. People were into it, and those first 4 beers I think they put out were there'd have been the IPA, which was huge.
Hop Wired, which was credited as the first New Zealand IPA.
Yeah, major beer. I believe Tall Poppy was one of the first 4, which we'll come back to in a moment. But also there was Iced Out, and if I'm not wrong, the what's the smoked Baltic Porter?
Big Smoke.
Big Smoke.
Yeah.
So some pretty incredible beers that he released just straight out of the gate. In this would have been 2010, maybe 2011, and just really made a big splash on the beer scene.
Yeah. So they were kind of one of the earliest breweries on the scene, and that kind of first wave of craft breweries that we got coming through. They won Champion New Zealand Brewery in 2011, which was really early days for them, which was fantastic to see. And yeah, they've gone from strength to strength, setting up the Southern Hemisphere's largest barrel aging program. They now have their Barrelworks, which is their brewery venue up in Warkworth, which is absolutely worth checking out. And they put out, a really great range of beers. They've got a fantastic core range. It's definitely worth checking out that Mix 6. They've just re-released Hop Wired in can, as we said, the first ever New Zealand IPA. We recently released a collaboration with them as Small Gods, which was Desperate Glory, a barrel-aged oud brewing. Tall Poppy was one of my first New Zealand craft beers, actually.
Okay.
I've been in and out of New Zealand over the years, and I was living in Australia when I first really got into craft beer, and when I moved back to New Zealand, we went on holiday up to the beach just as soon as we arrived, about a week later, and I went to the bottle shop and picked up a few beers, one of them was Tall Poppy, the other one was 8 Wired Saison Sauvin, which was their National Sauvin Saison. I was really impressed with it. It was a big classic red IPA. It's got that kind of beautiful malt character. And I actually immediately applied for a job at 8 Wired, which I didn't get, but I didn't know anything about beer at the time, so fair enough, no hard feelings.
Yeah, so Tall Poppy, 7% red IPA, really stood out at its time. There weren't a lot of beers around like that, and just having the sort of that big bitterness, the rounded body to it. The red IPAs were a pretty huge thing internationally for a while. You don't see as many of them around these days, but speak to any beer fan and they'll tell you they love red IPAs. Yeah,
it's still one of my favourite styles, but it's a style that's very hard to do right. Often you can not get the hops right and you end up with an amber ale, or you can not get the malt right and you end up with an IPA that's just a different colour and can just taste a bit muddy. 8 Wired really delivered with Tall Poppy, and it became a huge fan favourite. And so that's when this year, a few months ago, they just re-released Small Poppy, which we're really excited to see. So it's a kind of a slightly toned down version of that, kind of a hoppy session IPA, what do they call it? A session red ale. At 4.5%. So it's still got that kind of nice caramelly malt character, and then a bit of hop bitterness and presence there too.
Yeah, really nicely rounded beer. It's there's a little bit of there's some oats in the malt bill as well, which gives it a nice sort of perceived, not perceived, just actual body, and it's getting some lovely fresh hop bitterness to it. Yeah. There's a bit going on with this beer. It's not just a watered down version of Tall Poppy. It's a whole thing of its own, but a really interesting, more sessionable take on that beer at just 4.5%.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I just think there's not enough red ales on the market in general. It's a malt character that I really like. That kind of slight burnt toffee, slight caramel,
Yep.
toasty, but not quite roasty, sweet but not cloying. And I think the base of a good red ale is a platform for so many different flavors to sing. Works really well with hot flavors. Works really well with sours as well. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm brewing myself is when I'm brewing an imperial stout or a big dark beer, I actually I'll build a big red beer base with all those malt flavors in it, and then put some dark malt in for a little bit of that roast and color. But really, that malt character that I look for in imperial in a red IPA is what I build into the base of an imperial stout or something, or just a big stout and something like that, because that malt character just carries so much complexity to it, and yeah, I think it often gets overlooked.
Well, I think we're going to have quite a few fans of this week's beer.
Yeah.
It's kind of I don't know if they're going to make it part of their core range, but I think it would fit in nicely. Just as it's a red ale's beer for all seasons, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think yeah, you can sip this just as easily in summer and winter, and well, I think we're particular fans of the concept that not all beer is beer for all seasons, but there's definitely a time and a place for different styles. You don't necessarily want a light kettle sour by the fire in the middle of winter, or a imperial stout on the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, we do, but
100%.
but yeah, realizing that's not for everyone. But yeah, this kind of thing is that, and really love the whole team at 8 Wired and the work they're putting in, and the interesting beers they put out.
Really good work, 8 Wired. Thanks for making some cracking beers.
Yeah.
In other news, what were you going to say?
In other news, we have some fantastic mix cases coming up on the Beer Jar website. So we have just released our big Christmas bundle that actually has a couple of 8 Wired beers in it. And
that's such a good box. It's $99. There's so much good stuff in there.
Yeah, so as Luke says, it's got a bunch of exclusive beers in there, some Small Gods beers, some exclusive imports, some cracking summer 6-pack. So you've got stuff for your beach during the day, and stuff for that late nights up on New Year's Eve and stuff like that. It's got some delicious snacks in there. Got a copy of the Pursuit of Hoppiness magazine. You've got a voucher for our bar, the French and Flagon.
Some stickers. Well, yeah, the Small Gods Christmas trio are in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, really brilliant value for money.
Yeah, so whether you're buying that as a gift for someone else or just for yourself, there's absolutely something for everyone in that box.
Yeah. The summer drop is going up?
The summer drop is coming soon when the couriers will deliver our goddamn beer. I think we are waiting on one more beer for that from that box to arrive before we can list it. So keep an eye out for that. It may be out by the time you're watching this video if the couriers get their act together. Otherwise, it'll be early next week probably. But that is going to be a delicious box of summery sessionable beers. That is going to be fantastic too.
Really nice lineup. And Matt's been pulling together a really fantastic West Coast IPA mix case featuring a lot of the classic and iconic West Coast IPAs that we've just seen in New Zealand over the years from a lot of our favourite breweries. So that's a really nice opportunity for you to revisit some beers that perhaps you might have loved, but if you're a Beer Jet member, you might be interested in trying new things and seasonals and one-offs. So it's going to be good to sort of go back and visit these super fresh batches of just delicious West Coast IPAs.
Yeah, it's what I was looking for when I was putting together this box is the creme de la creme of OG West Coast IPAs in New Zealand. So before the haze craze, when everyone was just discovering what IPA was in New Zealand, these beers that have been perfected over years and years and nailed down. So think Hopwired, think Knife Party, Citra, Hop Zombie, Armageddon. We've got more in there. McLeod's Great Migration and Tropical Cyclone. We've got Sawmill IPA. It's a banging box, as Luke says, of some West Coast classics that are absolutely worth revisiting. Garagista, Pernicious Swede. So that's going to be launching again when all the beers arrive. So keep an eye out for that. I'm really looking forward to that box as just kind of a trip down memory lane and a reminder that core range beers, they make them again and again and again, and they sell a lot of them. So they're usually really fresh, and they've perfected them. They've nailed it down. They're tweaking constantly to try and get the very best result to try and make those beers perfect. So a lot of the seasonals that you try and get excited about because you haven't tried them before. I know I'm guilty of this as anyone. I love to try the latest things that people are doing, but sometimes you just sit down with a core range beer that's freshly brewed and has been worked on for sometimes 10 years, 15 years or more, in the case of something like Armageddon, and that it's just right, like you can't beat them. So really excited about that product.
And a note on that, and the beer jerk difference, with hoppy beers are best drunk fresh. They need to be stored cold, and they just taste better when they're fresh. And here at Beer Jerk, we turn around our beers really quickly. So that there's a reason the fridge and flagon is called that. Our warehouse is just a really big fridge where we store everything cold. And we turn our stock really quickly. So a lot of bottle stores and supermarkets, they'll store their beer just at ambient in the back. It might be, you might pick it up off a shelf in the fridge in the supermarket, but it's definitely stored warm in the back. And beer can just be sort of left to age, and yeah, hoppy beers, you want them fresh. And if you're buying hoppy beers from Beer Jerk, you're pretty safe knowing that it's going to be the latest batch that you're buying, because we're just like constantly buying fresh stock and sending it around.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's one of the reasons, I mean, probably before I worked at Beer Jerk more than now, but I would always buy the latest seasonal releases, is because it's an easy indicator of freshness. Like, that's just come out, I know it's going to taste great, rather than having to check on every the date on every can that I pick up. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can also subscribe to our Fresh IPA mix case, where if you want fresh hoppy beers, we put together a box every month of the freshest IPAs, mostly new releases, but occasionally we get some freshly brewed core range beers in there as well, and we ship those out to you every month, and that is the best way to get the freshest new releases in IPA.
We should probably tell more people about the Fresh IPA mix pack. We should like put some posts on social media and stuff.
Probably should.
Obviously, there's many of you watching this video that are hearing all about
Dozens, maybe.
Hey, we're up to 140 subscribers now on the YouTube channel. And lastly, we have got a few things going on before Christmas here at the Fridge and Flagon, our glamorous warehouse bar. This Saturday night, we're open as usual from 12 to 8, but then at 8 o'clock when we normally close, we're going to stay open. And we've got Dead Signal Cinema Club coming in, and they're going to be doing an open-air screening of Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
A pretty amazing film. I haven't watched it since I was about 15 years old, so I'm really excited about watching it again. So you can find details for that on social media. You can buy a ticket, which is $15, and obviously drink some great beers. And then the Saturday after that, so a week on Saturday, we're going to have a little bit of Christmas party here at the Fridge and Flagon.
Yeah, we're going to, we have some absolutely banging kegs stashed away in the back that we've been saving for a special occasion. We've got a keg of Old St. Nick, the Small Gods Christmas beer from last year. We've got a Mountain Culture Imperial Stout that we didn't sell you when we launched the Mountain Culture beers here a few weeks ago, and a few other special treats. So yeah, definitely come and check that out.
And probably a good smash burger truck, but I'm trying to lock that in as we speak.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for joining us this week, everybody. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.